Hi, I'm Chelsea.
Hi, I'm Alexis.
And we're going to talk about Zim.
Dark Harvest, one of the more notorious episodes of Zim.
And for good reason, I'd say. Something to note for any Jonan fan out there, there is an appearance of Filler Bunny at the beginning of this episode.
Yeah, right in the jar.
Alright. We have different storyboards. The Graham Brothers were doing a bunch of the ones we did earlier. I'm not going to recheck all of the ones, but this one is two different people. And already the camera angles are way different in this one than in the Graham Brothers ones. You could see they did some panning, a lot more quick cuts, I think. And in general, it's just more of an action feel to it right away. First shot you get, Filler Bunny gets nailed with a ball. And then a kid gets nailed with a ball, voiced by Jason Marsden, one of my favorite voice actors. And then Zim gets nailed with a ball.
Right, and Squealy Spooch.
And Squiddly Spooch. They did get already mentioned, Squiddly Spooches.
Now it is a driving factor for this particular plot, talking about the differences in Urkin anatomy and human anatomy.
Dib, again, with his relationship to Gaz here. She's playing handheld of some kind, and Dib says, "Squealy Spooch, that's not a human organ." Gaz goes, "I have one. I have 3.
Yeah, it's being a little smartass.
Yeah, she doesn't want to listen to your shit today, Dib.
She never wants to listen to shit any day.
She just wants to say whatever will get him to shut up the fastest, and that one was quite effective, because right after that, he just sighed and went back to whatever he wanted to do.
He's going to keep monologuing.
Well, not to her anymore. He's not going to try and get her approval in this conversation anymore. Which I think is what her intention of telling him that she had a squeedly spooch was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Dib gets a package at school. Gaz lampshades that by asking him if he had it delivered to school. And to keep it, though they don't answer this question, but I could actually see this being a thing. We know that Membrane isn't exactly accepting of Dib's passions in these areas, so maybe he actually specifically asked to get it during the school day because he wouldn't be at home to pick up the package, and he didn't want his dad to see it, or have to sign for it, because clearly he had to sign for it, so.
Yeah, that actually makes sense.
Membrane's never at home, so if the package had to be signed for during normal business hours, this is really, really mundane, but that's okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is probably not stuff the writers thought about, but just treating it as an in-universe thing, that's a completely legit reason for Dib to have it delivered to the school.
Yeah, not even just comedy reasons, very normal adult reasons why you would need something delivered to school. Membrane is never at home to sign for packages, and Dib just can't get them at home.
If Membrane were at home, he wouldn't come up to sign for that package.
Oh no, he's making toast. Again, I'm going to note lots and lots of much more dynamic angles in this episode, and we have, first of all, Bitters talking about the bubonic plague, and then Zim getting head pigeons.
I also like that Zim responds to Ms. Bitters as a superior officer, which makes sense. That actually might be our first note of him. I mean, Bitters is obviously a powerful creature that you don't want to screw with. Everybody knows that. But she's also tall, so
I would say that he has a deep ingrained response to people with authority. So even though he's disobeyed many people who have been his superiors, sure. But authority is something different. You know, you can carry yourself with authority even if you're not someone's superior. And I think that Zim respects that more than he respects somebody who has just a position over him in a rank, really. I think if any Earth person really kicked him around and pushed him down, he'd probably respect them. I think that that's just how Urkins treat each other in terms of what we've seen.
Yeah, we really don't see Zim treating anybody who screws with him with respect.
I don't know. It's hard to say. I guess we have the fact that Bitters is his teacher, so.
Well, maybe that's his version of respect, and he's trying to show that there's no, oh, thank you, Ms. Bitters. It's just, sir!
Well, I mean, we've talked about them being a military race, and that would be how you would respond to somebody who you respect and are going to take orders from.
Mm-hmm.
He goes straight to the nurse with no argument. Also, I'm guessing he doesn't know what head pigeons are. Though we do. We totally know what head pigeons are. We're just not telling you.
Well, I mean, they're a big problem, and that's why everybody was so shocked by this episode. I mean, you just don't do humor about head pigeons. It's not cool.
It's true. I mean, after this podcast is over, any money we earn is going to the head pigeons.
My cousin died of head pigeons. It's not cool. I almost stopped watching the show after this.
Okay. I was just trying to tell them about our charity. The Association to Prevent Head Pigeons.
Alright, so Dib warns Zim, or mocks him really, saying that when he gets to the nurse's office, the nurse will know that Zim doesn't have human organs.
Another instance of Dib totally undoing himself.
Also, what kind of nurse inspects your organs?
What kind of hall pass explodes if you try to leave school grounds?
The Battle Royale collars are a really nice touch.
Yeah, I have to say, Battle Royale collar hall passes are the way of the future. We'll see his organs then.
And Dib also fixating on how badly he wants to see Zim just frickin' dissected. He must have seen, like a documentary or something on that last month. It's like, that's the cool thing for him. And I mean, I don't know, alien organs would be pretty cool to see.
He just saw them through his frickin' scope.
That's true. You don't get to handle them, though.
I mean, that's actually something that I'd say is interesting about Dib, if we're taking this very seriously, which we do. He looked at Zim's organs, and instead of taking it as ooh, look, I get to see what alien physiology is like, I get to learn something new, he immediately is in the mindset of using them to destroy Zim's credibility and to ruin him, instead of being like, well, I can worry about that stuff later. It's not like his organs are going to change. You can study them now and then do something later.
There's probably dozens of recesses where Dib just sat there with those on, staring through Zim and drawing diagrams. I mean, Dib, I don't know if you can say he gets creepier as the series progresses, but he does get more obsessive, and that seems weird with the way he started, but his fixation on Zim gets worse. It gets to sitting outside his house for days, watching for activity, going through his trash. And again, if you knew there was an alien who was trying to destroy the world and nobody would believe you, I think any of us would kind of go to weird extremes if we didn't take the Gaz route.
Well, I think if any of us had observed Zim for long enough, as Dib clearly has, that he knows Zim isn't really a threat, because Zim continually fails to do anything of value in conquering this place, and he certainly doesn't have the support of his superiors.
Well, we're about to establish that Zim hurts people. He does some bad shit.
I guess that's true, and in our discussion of Dib, I think we have talked about how he's trying to make the world a better place. So he would not compromise on letting people get hurt, even if they're people he doesn't like, even if they're people he doesn't value very much. Whereas Gaz, I think as soon as somebody doesn't have any value to her, she doesn't care if they're dead. And I'm not even going to mince words here. She doesn't care if they're dead.
Nope.
She doesn't care if they get hurt. She doesn't care if they're dead. Okay, we start off pretty strong.
Alright, so Zim has replaced, I actually can't remember which organ, with a,
it looked like his stomach, maybe?
Stomach? Yeah, I don't know. I can remember first seeing this episode as a middle schooler, and just going, no. And Zim's like, you're full of organs, aren't you? You wouldn't notice if you were, say, missing a few. And just to watch this and go, he's not gonna... This isn't a thing that's about to happen. Because the episode was relatively new when I saw it, so there was nobody going around saying, oh, this is this episode where Zim steals a bunch of children's organs. I didn't know. And it's not something I'd ever seen done before. And again, there's a difference between, a Bugs Bunny joke where somebody's, heart jumps out of their throat or something, and the way they handle it in Invader Zim. when gore happens in Zim, it's gore, not slapstick. It's kind of scary. I mean, they want it to be like that.
They take it seriously, is what you should say. It's not a joke, like we said with the eyes. They'll pop out, but your eyes aren't actually hurt by that in a pop-out sort of thing. But they were in Keith's case. And to take this further, to make this more f***ed up, as it were, he replaced his stomach or whatever with the hall pass, and this is a hall pass that explodes when you leave school grounds.
I mean, we see hall monitor in another episode, but
we know he's confined to this school from now on. He can't leave. He is the eternal hall monitor now.
But yeah, I can remember I watched this entire episode with my mouth hanging open because I didn't think that was something you could do on Nickelodeon.
Well, don't leave your mouth hanging open. He'll take out your organs.
And as the credits started rolling, I started to laugh. I hadn't laughed a single time the entire episode. And I think this is my first episode of Zim. I hadn't seen one at all yet. But that was the point where I knew that I had to keep watching this show. That it was something absolutely amazing. And I wasn't scared to be uber serious to the point where it doubled back around to comedy. Alright, so the mystery of Hall Monitor Boy slightly solved. They probably got him saved, at the school nurse's office. His liver was taken out. He'll maybe be fine. But he is pretty clearly suffering from shock, and he's going to have some PTSD from this whole incident. I mean, he's kind of crouched over, going, the cooing, like, this didn't take him by surprise. He knows exactly what Zim did to him.
I'd say that the reason that he survives is that this school nurse is established by saying that some kids react to this cafeteria food by losing organs. So they've dealt with organ loss in the past.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, from the signs, this is also a place that deals in radiation burns.
I'm guessing from the school cafeteria food, too.
I haven't put together too much of a idea of how far in the future this takes place. It was supposed to be futuristic. This was back in 2000, 2001, so certain things like signing for packages on a tablet, that actually happens now. That was futuristic back when the show was made. But I don't know. Maybe this city has radiation.
In terms of sci-fi, well, first of all, they have membrane, so yes, they probably do.
Oh my god, yes.
I mean, we saw in the episode, the parent-teacher night one, we saw membrane have a giant mushroom cloud, so yeah. The idea of people dealing with radiation burns in this town does not surprise me at all. And in terms of it being futuristic, I'd say, I think that part of the reason it actually feels realistically futuristic to me isn't just because of the technology that's a little bit beyond what we had at the time and or have right now, but also because of the dirtiness of the world. And I feel like in a worldview of this show, the type of universe would trend towards, or Earth itself would trend towards, getting dirtier and grimier. People would care less. People would throw their trash around. It's become this cold, desolate place. Maybe it used to be more like our world. Not that our world is that great, but it's okay. I think more okay than this one. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. It's part of the futuristicness of this is the disposition of the people and the environment in which they live. Oh my gosh, the number of beautiful angles in this episode. There's tons of floor, tons of ceiling, tons of fisheye. I actually would say this is, like the first episode, mirroring that sort of cinematic style, because we were talking about this episode being more like a B-movie horror. In general, though, just noting the huge difference between this episode in terms of how many angles and how much thought was put in to making the scenes feel more cinematic, and it adds to the episode in a subtle way for somebody who's not paying attention, but definitely dramatically.
I'd say that the high and low and strange camera angles are meant to kind of increase the sense of discomfort and unrealness of it all. They're awkward, not bad awkward, but they're different camera angles that you might not expect.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, it feels different than a normal cartoon then, and that
mm-hmm.
increases that sense of something weird is happening, something unusual is happening. Mm-hmm. So it definitely increases that, again, in a subtle way, but that's the way that this sort of thing happens, is color palettes and lighting are meant to completely change the way you can perceive something without you being as obviously aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Also, even though the head pigeons thing starts off as a thing that's just funny, it's a joke, and you don't even really get it. It has that randomness that like a girl line might have. They use it to amazing effect because you have to have something to menace. You know, when you're not seeing Zim, you have to have something menacing to indicate his presence. Mm-hmm. And they have the cooing of the pigeon.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if they tried to pick the most peaceful, calming sound they could think of. And said to themselves, this is his noise that will follow people around. Because I can't think of a sound that indicates a more peaceful atmosphere than the soft coo of a pigeon in the morning light. I mean, think this is almost the sound a mourning dove makes, you know, when it's just like idyllic, beautiful, the sunrise. You think of parks, you think of throwing breadcrumbs and just the little, they're tapping around, they're stupid and harmless, they're adorable, you know, whatever. And now it is their horror menacing noise.
Essentially, Chelsea wants you, the next time you're out and about and you hear a pigeon cooing, to just close your eyes and for a minute imagine that that's atop an alien's head, and as the cooing gets closer,
your organs get further away. As the cooing approaches, your organs are in more and more danger.
Alright, so kudos to Alexievich or whoever did the design for organ resplendent Zim. Because while he's talking, you can see, like, the pile of organs in the back of his throat. Like, he's so stuffed to the gills.
Zim full of organs.
Just spews that large intestine right out.
That's disgusting. Ugh. It's disgusting.
There is a satisfying visceral quality to just and then he just, like it's a big old spaghetti.
That's not satisfying, it's gross. You are gross.
I'm not saying that it would be satisfying, like, in real life or anything. I'm just saying that, like, from a cartoon quality, there's just good movement and there's good weight to it.
This shot, even, where he loses the bit of intestine and it rolls out of his mouth, you know, you have it from, like, the bottom left corner, sort of, upward. So It has a very good... I believe it's doing a rule of thirds. Yeah, it definitely is.
It even kind of, like, goes around, like, Dib's leg is in the shot, and it goes kind of around his foot there, and it's a really nice use of space there.
Oh, definitely. You have Zim on the left third, and Dib's leg in the right third, and the organ kind of crosses through both and rolls back into the left third.
I don't know if that's a rule of thirds there. Zim's just off-center. So we see more of the kids who've had their organs replaced. Gaz is temporarily happy because I guess her thigh organ has been replaced with her game slave.
It looked like a kidney or something on the bottom.
She's going to be really unhappy when she can't charge that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think right now, maybe even Gaz, she's not really happy about the organ thing. I think she's just happy because she's getting to a good level, and as long as she still has her game slave, she doesn't care.
Also, she can't really see the screen, even though it's, like, kind of shining through her skin. Bit of headcanon here. I like the idea that she can play so well that she's playing on sound alone.
Oh, yeah, she knows. You know, when you hear that little boom, she knows she's running into a wall. And
Vampire Piggy Hunter 1. She's played it a million times. She knows it from back to front.
It is made up of triangles and circles, which I think is very advanced. It's very advanced graphics.
Oh, listen. The new gen just hasn't come out yet.
Oh, I know.
Game Slave 2 will be great.
You know what I just realized? Kind of off topic, but on topic.
Mm-hmm.
Membrane wants to make the world a better place. That's the only other character I can think of in this show who cares about making the world a better place. Mm. And he may be petty about it, which we do see later on when he gets mad and robs the world of an infinite energy source. He's petty, yes, but he has a children's television type show, Bill Nye style, and he's trying to invent things to make the world great. And Dib is the only other person in this world who I've noticed at all that wants other people to thrive and prosper. He doesn't just want himself to thrive and prosper. He wants other people to.
I think that there's a couple other people who do want to see others thrive and prosper.
Well, Nick, I guess.
They're just... No. Nick doesn't... He's not in it for other people. There's some people who want to see others thrive and prosper, but they're really dumb.
Okay, so... back on track.
Okay, another moment of one of our main two just screwing himself over because he has to one-up the other. Zim thinks that he is done stealing organs, and Dib just has to remind him that he doesn't have a complete set. And he challenges him. He's like, heart, kidney, spleen, do you have all these? Do you have lungs? Like, he goes until he finds one Zim doesn't have, and then Zim immediately retreats through the roof because he's gonna go get some lungs. And it screws over Dib. We're not in the business of spoiler warnings here. We kind of assume that everybody's seen these episodes before we do these. We all know that Dib loses one of his lungs at the end. That wouldn't have happened if he just shut up.
Dib never knows when to shut up.
He'll know later, just not yet. So Dib has vague memories of being abducted as an infant.
He says, I think they were doing tests on me to create a super genius baby or something.
I think that the most likely explanation for this one is that was him being created as an infant by Membrane.
I agree.
It's fanon that Dib and Gaz, there's a lot of explanations that their mom's a robot is one I've heard a lot, or that they were just kind of generally created. I don't know. But the idea that there was, foul play involved, I really like. That they're not completely normal children makes sense. And Dib resembles his dad and grows up to look a lot like him. So I'm pretty inclined to believe that they are related to Professor Membrane. But it makes enough sense that they might not be normal children. They're also kind of a pair of the smartest people on Earth, in an Earth that is shown to be very clearly dumb. So they could be genetically modified to be incredibly intelligent.
Yeah, maybe they were born not completely naturally, maybe test tube baby type. Mm-hmm. And after that, what Dib remembers as an abduction is actually his dad meddling with his brain capacity or ability to... I guess we have seen him to be pretty acrobatic. Maybe that's part of it, too. Maybe he just is enhanced in a lot of different ways. Also, more proof for this, in Bad Bad Rubber Piggy, Membrane does enhance Dib when he starts to fail.
Yeah, that's true.
And even though that doesn't happen in this timeline, we can see that Membrane is very inclined to increase his son's ability if he has any limitations.
Yeah, and Membrane's pretty quick to say that Dib's insane. Maybe he knows a little bit more about the risks of what might have happened to Dib. Dib's not completely mentally healthy. We got to agree with that. He's not delusional, but...
Yeah. He could use some therapy. He has a dad that doesn't pay attention to him.
Yeah.
I honestly... we had a line earlier in this episode where... Well, not too much earlier, but... Where he said, they'll thank me. They'll all thank me.
Oh, yeah.
And, again, we can say that this is why he has this need to do these things. That maybe he just needs the attention. That nobody pays attention to him. Even Gaz, who tries a little bit, but hardly, he can't get it from his dad. He can't get it from his sister. He can't get it from literally anyone standing next to him ever.
And living in the shadow of his dad, those are some pretty big shoes to fill. I mean, Membrane is a world-renowned scientist in multiple engineering fields.
True. Alternately, we can go with the theory that Dib was abducted as a child. There are other races than the Urkins. Doesn't have to have anything to do with them. We did have Fanon, or the joke that we made in the first episode about the fact that the ship that Zim rode in on knew what Earth was, even though the Urkins didn't know what it was. So, maybe the Vortians abducted him. I have no idea if they did or didn't. All I can tell you is that the Urkins aren't the only people in the universe. And maybe someone did abduct Dib.
Dib's probably been modified for intelligence, kind of the more that I think about it. Also, it probably explains why his head's so big. In all legitimate seriousness.
We now know. This is what we gotta title this episode now. We tell you why is his head so big.
Yeah, and I have not necessarily proof, but as far as looking at it from a writer's perspective, in about, I think, 20 episodes, I'm going to have something for you guys. I'm kind of happy with this.
It's awesome. Oh my gosh. That chase scene is... Alexis and I talked about this, that this show holds up so well. Not just because of its good writing, but excellent use of visuals, excellent use of animation. Oh my goodness, this chase scene. If you want to pick one scene from Invader Zim that shows off without later stuff, there's great stuff with like the spaceships and like battle stuff, but they use a little bit of the 3D animation, which has definitely significantly improved in technology wise since that happened. So it doesn't look bad, it just doesn't look as good as it could look now. But these 2D animated sequences, especially this chase scene, you take this chase scene just out of context, it's a great use of space, it's a great use of subtlety. It withholds well. It withholds well. Goodness gracious. Everything about it is awesome. We don't really need to gush too much more other than the fact that whole scene is phenomenal.
I'm sure that there's people who watched it and laughed at the overblownness of kind of the whole thing. But I think most people watch that scene and it's not hard to take it seriously as a good action sequence, or chase sequence at the very least.
Totally.
Also, another note, Zim's got the spider legs out, so he is monster for that segment. Dib is on the run. Dib will sometimes get into a physical altercation with Zim, but Zim's got the spider legs out. Nope, he's a force to be reckoned with, and you just don't want to screw with him. I mean, he also has an organ theft machine, which is the more nightmarish thing.
I have to say, we see him liberally using his pack in this one.
Yes, because he's got the organ machine like in there for later use.
Yeah, he opens his pack and pulls out the organ machine in front of the hall monitor kid. So he's not really caring about keeping his cover down at this point. He does after. I mean, he hides in the vents afterward, but when he's in front of the hall monitor kid, he just kind of opens it up and steals the kid's organs.
You know, something I never really stopped to think about. It's not a direct swap when the nurse lady's or the nurse receptionist's brain gets taken out. He takes out her brain, he pulls the brain up, he puts down a can, puts that back in place. It's not a clean swap. Zim doesn't need to put anything else back.
Yeah, it doesn't need a object switch.
Does he think people won't notice?
Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe that's part of his thought process.
What's he trying to do?
Is he's replacing things because he's like, oh, well, as long as I put a ruler in place of this spine, which the spine's not really an organ. It's supposed it's a nerve center, but it's not really an organ. Put a ruler in place of this spine, it's about the same thing. This cat pretty much approximates bowels, you know.
It's almost like, you know, gentlemanly of him. Like, well, I can't leave these humans with nothing. Like a consolation prize. If Zim were capable of taking pity on anything but his possessions, I can believe that.
Alright, since we mentioned the spider legs too, when Zim hears from Dib, I need lungs, the way he retreats is he literally just takes out the spider legs and pulls himself into the grate or whatever. And that, I'm not sure if that's Dib's first time seeing the spider legs, but I'd be scared. I'd be way scared. Not just because he's full of organs, but because he has mechanical parts that allow him to run around.
Yeah, and I mean, Zim whips those out, broad light of day, in the school. That's Dib's territory, with kids around.
I think that because he's robbed them of organs,
yeah.
He doesn't think any of them are really sentient enough right now to do anything.
Exactly, and that's even more terrifying. Like, that's Zim going, I don't even have to hide around your people right now. The disguise is out of habit at this point. None of these children can fight him.
Yeah. Other than Torque Smacky.
Torque Smacky! Alright, so after this just gorgeous chase sequence, I mean, we have, the stock room has these great blues and purples everywhere, and the boiler room is just reds and oranges. Dib running from Zim, who's in the tiles, and that's what makes the atmosphere of the horror so good, is that you see so little of Zim. It's very Alien-esque in that you see Zim, you don't even see where he comes down because they zoom in on the x-ray machine to just show him entering the field of vision. You see feathers and stuff. When Dib opens the door, you see this just kind of flash of Zim sitting there. It's legitimately creepy. When Dib is running from Zim, you see the ceiling tiles falling, and you know that that's Zim up there. You see Zim kind of lowered through the mist. Just, ooh, so good, so tense. You got Kevin Menke, keeping the heart-pounding music going. And, as Zim finally, gets Dib cornered and he's coming down, and it fades to black with Dib screaming. And just cut to straight on, full face, very little art, just nice and simple. He's sitting there next to Zim in the nurse's office. Both of them, like a location we've already seen, well lit. Both of them have the thermometers in their mouths, and Dib just opens up his mouth and this moo comes out of it. We already saw that the nurse had a little moo can. We know that Zim was going after lungs. They don't tell us, they don't show us what Zim does to Dib. They don't say that he took one of his lungs. You just know. They don't have to explain it.
Alright. This one is another episode following our previous one where Dib tries to point out that Zim is right next to him, being completely inhuman, but he's the one who takes that heat. Yeah, he takes that heat for whatever it is, dropping punch or having a cow lung. Even though... Oh, and we can also say that we were talking about how the nurse must have some sort of an organ scanning machine, but she doesn't scan Zim. She just knows he has plentiful organs.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Maybe this nurse... Okay, there are two options in this world. Yeah. This nurse has x-ray vision. Or...
Believable.
Or this nurse can smell organs. She knows.
Well, both Torque, grabs his stomach to check for organs, which I think is probably just laziness. He should be getting in there and counting his organs to check under the circumstances. But, I don't know, maybe she can see the organs in the back of his mouth and goes, oh, there's so many that don't fit. Bless you, child.
Alright, that's it for this week. Sorry about our bird. If you want to find more stuff that we did, you can search for Chibi Silverwings on Google or Alexis Royce, and you'll find us.